Megan Fox was not born with a red carpet under her feet. Long before the glittering spotlights and paparazzi flashes, she was a teenager in a banana costume, standing awkwardly outside a smoothie shop. Yes, a banana. Not a glamorous princess dress, not a sparkling gown. Just a big yellow foam banana suit. People passed by, squinting, wondering if this was performance art or a fruit promotion. Spoiler, it was both, but mostly minimum wage. Imagine Megan, the future Hollywood femme fatale, waving a giant foam hand while yelling, "Half off strawberry smoothies," through a clunky banana mask. She could barely breathe in that thing, and her hair was hidden under a floppy yellow stem. The irony? Inside, she already dreamed of dazzling cameras. Outside, toddlers poked her costume like she was an oversized piñata. If anyone whispered, "She'll be the star of Transformers one day," it would have sounded like intergalactic comedy. The job was simple: stand there, wave, survive. But for Megan, it was an early acting lesson. She learned how to smile even when sweat dripped down her back. She learned dramatic timing while dodging skateboarders who tried to high-five her peel. And she learned resilience when pigeons confused her bright yellow suit for a snack stand. In her mind, this was rehearsal. Someday, she wouldn't be selling smoothies. She'd be selling blockbuster movies. Customers often ignored the banana. Some laughed, some snapped blurry flip phone pictures, and some avoided eye contact altogether, as if embarrassed for her. But Megan stood tall, or as tall as one can in a squishy fruit costume. It was character building. Future co-stars would one day throw fake explosions at her on set, but nothing compared to the psychological warfare of being mistaken for a mascot at kids' birthday parties. If fame was a jungle, this was her survival training. Years later, when cameras flashed and directors shouted her name, Megan would look back at this moment with absurd pride. After all, if she could endure the heat, the humiliation, and the random fruit jokes, Hollywood was just another stage. Being a banana wasn't glamorous, but it was unforgettable. And in a weird, cosmic twist, it taught her one truth: sometimes you have to peel through the ridiculous before you can shine like a star. Megan quickly discovered that life inside a banana costume came with strange superpowers. For one, she became invisible, but only in the sense that people refused to make eye contact with her. Entire groups of teenagers would cross the street, pretending the human-banana hybrid didn't exist. Dogs, however, were fascinated. They tugged on their leashes, convinced she was some kind of oversized chew toy. The future queen of Hollywood had officially been demoted to chewable fruit. Of course, the job had its perks. Megan could eat as many smoothies as she wanted during breaks, though sipping through a straw while wearing a banana suit was a slapstick act on its own. She'd lift the foam peel like it was a medieval helmet, gulping blueberry sludge while kids pointed and laughed. "Look, the banana is eating itself," they'd yell. Hollywood scripts couldn't compete with that kind of raw absurdity. It was tragic. It was hilarious. It was training. The worst part wasn't the sweat, the ridicule, or even the dogs. No, the real villain was gravity. Every gust of wind turned Megan into a slapstick kite. Once, a breeze nearly sent her tumbling into traffic, rolling across the sidewalk like runaway produce. Strangers cheered, others recorded shaky videos, and Megan performed her first unofficial stunt. Years later, when Michael Bay made her dodge explosions, she thought, "Easy, I survived crosswalk banana tumbling. Hollywood can't top that." But in between the humiliations, something magical happened. People smiled. For a brief second, strangers forgot their boring errands and laughed at the absurdity of a glamorous young woman trapped in fruit cosplay. Megan wasn't just a banana, she was comic relief in a grey city. Maybe she didn't realize it then, but she was already acting, already commanding attention, already testing the art of being unforgettable. Fame wasn't far, it was just hiding under layers of foam peel. And so, each shift became a surreal rehearsal. Megan learned how to stay graceful while ridiculous, how to be magnetic even when nobody cared, and how to own a stage. even if the stage was a sticky sidewalk outside Smoothie Planet. This was not just a job. It was destiny disguised as potassium. Because one day, she wouldn't just be waving at strangers, she'd be waving from a movie premiere with cameras flashing instead of pigeons attacking. Every banana has an expiration date, and so did Megan's fruity career. But while it lasted, she became a local legend. Teenagers driving by in beat-up cars would honk and yell, "Go Banana Girl!" as if she were a superhero with potassium powers. Megan waved with dignity, secretly wishing for a cape instead of foam. She imagined herself flying across the city, a glamorous banana avenger. But reality was less marvel, more awkward fruit trying not to trip over a sidewalk crack. The smoothie shop manager didn't appreciate the artistry. To him, Megan was just a walking billboard. "Wave more energetically," he'd bark, as though banana choreography was part of the job description. Megan took it seriously, though. If she had to wave, she'd wave with cinematic flair. She twirled, bowed, and once even attempted jazz hands, which looked less like Broadway and more like a banana having a seizure. Still, she performed. That's called commitment. Sometimes customers recognized her under the costume. A neighbor, a classmate, even an ex-crush once passed by. Their reactions ranged from awkward chuckles to second-hand embarrassment. But Megan didn't hide. She owned it. If Hollywood was full of critics, this was the warm-up act. Yes, she thought, I am a banana today, but tomorrow I'll be unforgettable. Imagine the poetic irony. Transformers leading lady once humiliated by a costume shaped like breakfast fruit. Destiny had a bizarre sense of humor. The job also gave Megan a crash course in improvisation. Kids would shout, "Do a dance, banana," and she'd wiggle awkwardly, inventing the world's first banana shuffle. Sometimes drivers threw out banana jokes that were older than the fruit itself. "Hey, are you going bananas? Peel out of here!" Megan responded with eye rolls hidden under foam, silently plotting her Hollywood revenge. Little did they know, the banana was taking notes, and one day the world would pay attention. Through sweat, humiliation, and endless puns, Megan grew tougher. The costume became her training ground, her gladiator arena, her foam-shaped dojo. When people doubted her later in Hollywood, she thought back, if I can survive strangers yelling, "Banana Girl," I can survive critics, directors, and even giant alien robots. In the end, it wasn't just a job. It was a prophecy disguised as potassium, a reminder that even the silliest beginnings can peel back to reveal greatness. Banana shifts didn't pay much, but they paid in stories. Once a group of tourists insisted on taking photos with Megan, convinced she was part of some bizarre American tradition. She smiled, held her peel proudly, and pretended she was a theme park attraction, the amazing talking banana. Ironically, years later, people would still line up for photos, only the costumes would be designer gowns, and the backdrop would be Cannes, not a smoothie shack. Practice makes perfect. Another time, she got recruited for a parade. Not an official one, just a random group of jugglers and clowns marching downtown. Somehow, the banana blended right in. Megan waved at strangers as if this was her rightful stage. People clapped, kids cheered, and for a brief moment she felt like the star of her own absurd circus. Hollywood red carpets are dramatic, yes, but nothing beats the chaotic glory of a banana parading next to a man on stilts. But the real turning point came when Megan realized she wasn't embarrassed anymore. She leaned into the nonsense. She danced bigger, waved bolder, and even invented catchphrases. "Stay fruity, my friends," she'd yell, confusing drivers but entertaining herself endlessly. She stopped being just a girl in a costume and became a character, a role she played with full conviction. That shift mattered, because when Hollywood came knocking, she already knew how to commit to a role, no matter how absurd. Some co-workers rolled their eyes. "It's just a job," they'd say, while blending smoothies behind the counter. But Megan saw it differently. For her, every gig was a stepping stone, even if it was covered in foam. Bananas today, blockbusters tomorrow. She didn't know when or how it would happen, but she believed her future was bigger than a sidewalk in front of Smoothie Planet. The banana was temporary, the dream was permanent. And so Megan kept going. Day after day, she braved the heat, the pigeons, and the terrible fruit jokes. Each shift ended with her peeling off the costume, sweaty but smiling. Somewhere deep inside, she knew she was rehearsing for something grander. One day, she'd peel off the foam for good and step into the spotlight, not as Banana Girl, but as Megan Fox, the woman who turned ridiculous beginnings into Hollywood legend. When Megan finally left the banana behind, it wasn't with bitterness, it was with gratitude. That costume had been her first stage, her first audience, her first absurd trial by fire. Hollywood would later give her glamorous dresses, makeup teams, and slow-motion entrances. But nothing, absolutely nothing, compared to the day she survived pigeons, mockery, and smoothie discounts while trapped inside a foam fruit. Banana school was harder than acting school, and she graduated with honors. She didn't keep the costume, though maybe she should have. Imagine the auction value, the legendary banana that launched a star. Instead, it probably ended up in a dusty storage room, crushed under old posters. But in Megan's memory, it was golden. Years later, when people asked about her rise to fame, she'd laugh and say, "It all started with potassium, and that's the kind of origin story superheroes and bananas dream of." The irony, of course, is that Hollywood isn't that different from smoothie marketing. Both involve standing in front of strangers, trying to get their attention. Both require stamina, confidence, and the ability to ignore hecklers. And both are full of people dressed in costumes that don't always make sense. Megan just happened to start with the most honest costume of all, a banana. Peel back the glamour, and at the core, show business is still bananas. By the time she became a household name, fans couldn't picture her as anything other than a screen siren. They didn't know about the banana, the sweat, or the smoothies. But maybe that was the secret ingredient. Without the banana, there was no resilience, no thick skin, no quirky humility hidden beneath Hollywood glam. The banana was the prequel. Transformers was just the sequel. And every blockbuster since, that was the director's cut of Megan's potassium-powered destiny. So, what's the lesson? Sometimes greatness begins in the most ridiculous places. Sometimes you have to sweat in foam, wave at strangers, and survive fruit jokes before you can shine in designer gowns. Megan Fox's story isn't just about fame, it's about peeling back embarrassment and finding pride. From banana mascot to Hollywood icon, her journey proves one thing: the path to stardom may be bananas, but that's exactly what makes it unforgettable.